Hello, and welcome to Serious About Film. My name's Eddie Harrison, and this week I'll be reporting from the Marienbad Film Festival, where film comes first, with a capital F. This week at Marienbad, we're going to be looking at Anchormensch. How many of the people who queue up to see the Will Ferrell comedy Anchorman will be aware of the 1972 classic on which it's based? Directed by Ziegler Klunt, this film features Snet, a penniless drifter who moves from village to village. He finds anchors at the bottom of the sea and then sells them to seafood restaurateurs as table decorations. He comes into conflict with Svetlana, a leprous whore from a nearby village. Erotic tension builds between them, only exacerbated as she starts sending him her body parts through the post. The film ends with a 2-hour dream sequence in monochrome which features 7 sets of Siamese twins. It is, I'm sure you'll agree, an erotic parable of hideous majesty, and unsurprisingly, it carried off the Thin Goat at the 1972 Chernobyl Film Festival. Let's take a look. Thoughtful stuff, I'm sure you'll agree. Next up from Marienbad Film Festival comes The Bourne Inheritance, the first in the series of movies featuring super spy Jason Bourne to be directed by Merchant Ivory, makers of Room with a View and Howard's End. Jason Bourne, played by Matt Damon, here is involved in a very different kind of adventure from his usual spy game shenanigans in Prague or whatever. In this situation, he becomes the Grand High Wizard of the Uttoxeter Farm Gala, where he encounters his old boss, played by Chris Cooper. Notable highlights in this film, including some spectacular action sequences, a combine harvester chase through the sewers of Tel Aviv, are also a notable horseback jousting competition in a maternity ward on Christmas Eve. Painted green and dressed as a praying mantis, Julia Stiles is an excellent foil, and Brian Cox contributes a notable cameo as Zarjaz, a time traveller from the future. It's a shocking and perhaps disturbing film. Let's take a look. I hope you enjoyed the political resonances in that clip as much as I did. In the second half, we'll be looking at Bing Mei Bong's Japanese rooftop politeness standoff. Join me after this break. Welcome back. My name's Eddie Harrison. This is Serious About Film. And this week we're taking a look at films from this year's Marienbad Film Festival. One of the year's most notable discoveries was Sergei Eisenstein's 1925 classic, The Battleship Poseidon Adventure. Eisenstein was originally not keen to make this film, and it was only after the Red Guard had removed his fingernails with pliers that he began to see the beauty of making a film about the Communist Revolution. He was also uncomfortable with the attention of the Red Guard. They seemed to spend more time in Eisenstein's pajamas than he did. But, despite such pressures, he made a remarkable film. In the film, a young soldier called Svet, played by Alex Gronk, decides to celebrate the 2nd anniversary of the Glorious Revolution by inviting his mother, played by Miriam Margolyes, to a celebration on board the battleship Poseidon Adventure. However, a capitalist wave turns the ship upside down, and the survivors are forced to climb for their freedom up a Christmas tree. This is a very slow film, and just when you think that something is about to happen, it ends. However, this did win the Golden Video Box at the Slog of Malmo in 1986. I hope you enjoy it as much as I did. I'm sure you, like me, had to wipe a tear from your eye while you were watching that one. Our last film tonight from the Marienbad Film Festival is Rong Kaching's extraordinary masterpiece, Eternal Twilight City of the Robot Dwarfs. In this film, he takes a look at a dystopian vision of the future, where the world is constructed entirely from steel wool and populated by replications of the actor Tony Leung. The plot is a very dense affair. Leung, painted silver, plays a robot who is mistaken for a hitman, also played by Leung, but this time in a hat. When an obese gangland boss, played by Tony Leung in a fat suit, orders his murder, Leung is forced to go on the run. leading him to find out the secret of the Twilight City and of the Borg-like dwarfs that inhabit it. Ron Kar-Ching's extraordinary vision meant that he got a very quick invitation to Hollywood after making this film, and he's now working on Lindsay Lohan's new film, Mean Girls 2, When Implants Harden. Let's take a look. Shocking, emotional stuff. That's about it for this week's report from the Marienbad Film Festival. Until then, perhaps you maybe feel that you could make a better film than some of the ones that you've seen tonight. If you do, then why not send me a tape or a DVD? Send it to Eddie Harrison, Serious About Film, Roundtree House, 17 Roundtree Avenue, Newhouse Industrial Estate, Holytown, ML1 5RX. In the meantime, thanks to the Digital Design Studio at Glasgow School of Art, and also to the Blue Room in Edinburgh for supplying this week's films. We'll have more from Marienbad next week. Until then, good night. Okay, I don't know what I'm going to say though. Goes into business in the salvage. Right, could we cut from that point actually, because I think we just about got everything done before I fell over the last, I forgot what the last bit was. 5. Right, sorry, count me in again. Okay, I don't know what I'm going to say though. It wasn't my fault for once. I'm going to write such a simple script next week. Right, sorry, wasting everyone's time, right. Ancient view of life at the Uttoxeter Tower. Glasgow School of Art and the Blue Room for supplying this week's films. Good night. What happened there? Good evening, and welcome to Serious About Film. My name's Eddie Harrison, and this week, as in every week, I'm bringing you the very best from the Marienbad Film Festival, where film comes first, with a capital F. This week, we're looking at Andrei Tarkovsky's 1981 masterpiece, The Cannonball Run. It certainly has an arresting opening. Nev, a solitary stranger, stands alone in a field. A hawk flies over his head. He carries a dead pigeon in a duffel bag. Eventually, Nev collapses into a puddle and lies there, weeping and mumbling. He repeats to himself the words of a poem that his father taught him. A poem of deep sadness and longing, an unhappiness about never having taken part in a cross-America road rage with Burt Reynolds, Roger Moore and Sammy Davis Jr. Let's have a look at a clip from the film. Powerful stuff. You won't be surprised to know that the director lived as a necrophile for 5 years before he made this film. When it was first shown in 1982, Soviet authorities were horrified. Its screening at the Leningrad Tractor Festival was a complete disaster, and copies of the film were seized. It's not surprising. In the second act, we see Nev by the side of the road trying to pump air into the tire of his car. The air represents Nev's soul. The tire represents the Soviet state without Lenin. And the car represents God, played by Jack Elam. Many critics have expressed their dissatisfaction with the third act of the film, in which Nev again lies in a puddle, mumbling, and again going through the words of the poem that his father taught him. At this point, Nev realizes that he, like his father, will never take place in a cross-country car race, and will never have the fun of watching Dom DeLuise crashing into a manure spreader in a brightly coloured hot rod. This sense of otherness is what gives Andrei Tarkovsky's Cannonball Run such a powerful effect. Let's have a look at another clip. Unsurprisingly, that won the Golden Tennis Ball of Geneva in 1974. After the break, we're going to be looking at more of the very best of the Marienbad Film Festival. Join me then. Hello and welcome back. I'm Eddie Harrison. This is Serious About Film, and this week, as in every week, we're looking at the Marienbad Film Festival. Next up, documentary, and we're looking at Morgan Spurlock's Superfluous Me. This film looks at the nefarious dealings of the sweetie industry. Spurlock, an American documentary maker, spent a week and a half eating nothing but fizzy cola bottles in an effort to find out what damage they would have in his system. He discovered, 2 weeks later, that his teeth had gone a bit furry and realised that he was in the grip of a sinister conspiracy. In the documentary, he unmasks the shopkeeper at his local cash and carry, Mr. Patel, as the leader of a sinister chain of people who push sweeties onto younger people. Sweeties taste nice, but they're not actually good for you, reveals Spurlock. This is a shocking expose that reveals exactly the dangers of eating sweeties. Spurlock now is perfectly healthy, but he's keen for his expose to reveal the truth about the sweetie eating industry. Let's have a look at the film he made. A very moving film, I'm sure you'll agree. Last this week from Marienbad comes a British film. Director Roger Hardon is back with My Ballet Lesson with Flavia. In this film, Hardon shows remarkable ability to get inside people's heads as he follows two teenage girls as they spend a sweltering summer in Swindon, playing badminton in their underwear and shaving each other's legs. Hardon's ability to understand teenage girls is impressive, and this film is not compromised at all by Hardon's recent arrest. It's also showing with Lucinda Trust Fund's film, My Grubby Elastoplast. This film is about a young woman who wanders around a housing estate. At the end, she is murdered by a tramp who symbolises all men. It's a powerful political comment. Let's have a look. Good night. Yeah, no, I don't know what you're going to use for the outtake material. Sorry, were we actually doing it that time? I didn't know. Are we doing it? A poem that his father taught him. A poem of deep songing. It's the first one. Deep songing. You get outtakes like you won't believe. Feel of more weakness. Feel of more weakness. No, I'm just hamming it up now. I'm just becoming a really mannered performance. Hello, and welcome back to Serious About Film. My name's Eddie Harrison, and this week, as every week, I'm giving you my reports from the Marienbad Film Festival, where film comes first, with a capital F. This week, we're going to be looking at Hideo Kinki's Japanese horror movie, Toaster Womb. Toaster Womb has already been a surprisingly big hit in Japan, where not having seen it is an offence punishable by death. Already, there's a hotly anticipated American remake, which will feature Freddie Prinze Jr. in his first drag role. The film's star is a Japanese 14-year-old called Clit Wu. Although she's completely unknown in the Western world, Clit Wu is a huge star in Japan. She makes more than 200 films a year. Her face appears in all Japanese stamps, and she has jurisdiction over all East Asian elections. In the film, she plays a mute stenographer. We follow her daily ritual of typing and silent weeping. But however, the film comes to a surprise conclusion when, during a visit to a haunted sauna, a spirit sucks out both of her eyeballs. Let's take a look. Next up from Marienbad, a British film, Stephen Hopkins' biopic, The Life and Death of Peter Buttersworth. What is there to say about Peter Buttersworth, who bestrode the British film industry like a colossus between 19... Hello? Hello, could you call me back later? Yeah, I'm doing a TV programme. I'm doing just now, yeah. Okay, thanks. Who bestrode the film industry, like a colossus from 1949 to 1979. In the film, Buttersworth is played by Jude Law, and the film follows him from his early days, when going to the cinema meant collecting jam jars in Wrexham, to his infamous cocaine and ketamine speedball collapse on the set of Carry On Emmanuel in 1978. His wife, Janet Brown, played by Angelina Jolie, and also Barbara Windsor, played by Charlize Theron, and Sid James, played by Brad Pitt, can only look on in horror as Peter Buttersworth's character unfolds in startling detail. Dream sequences in this film by Shinola. Have a look. Powerful stuff. You won't be surprised to know that the director lived as a necrophile for 5 years before he made this film. When it was first shown in 1982, Soviet authorities were horrified. Its screening at the Leningrad Tractor Festival was a complete disaster, and copies of the film were seized. It's not surprising. In the second act, we see Nev by the side of the road trying to pump air into the tyre of his car. The air represents Nev's soul. The tyre represents the Soviet state without Lenin. And the car represents God, played by Jack Elam. Many critics have expressed their dissatisfaction with the third act of the film, in which Nev again lies in a puddle, mumbling, and again going through the words of the poem that his father taught him. At this point, Nev realizes that he, like his father, will never take place in a cross-country car race, and will never have the fun of watching Dom DeLuise crashing into a manure spreader in a brightly coloured hot rod. This sense of otherness is what gives Andrei Tarkovsky's Cannonball Run such a powerful effect. Let's have a look at another clip. That has to be the best film to come out of Mexico in the last 60 years. We've got more coming up in the Marienbad Film Festival and series about film, so stay with us and join us again as we go to the break. Hello, and welcome back to Series About Film. I'm Eddie Harrison, and this is a report of the new films that have just been unveiled at the Marienbad Film Festival. Next, we've got more Japanese horror, with Hideo Kinki's new film, Painful Urge. This time, Klipwoo's sister, Wet Pang, stars. She plays a mute stenographer with one leg. The film follows her daily routine of typewriting, shelf filling, and occasional masturbation. However, the film has a shocking coda when, during a visit to a haunted supermarket, she has all her bones sucked out by a demonic goat. It's intriguing stuff. I'm sure, like me, you'll want to take a look. I hope you enjoyed this glimpse into Marienbad. Thank you, and good night. My name's Eddie Harrison, and this is Series About Film. Yeah, I couldn't remember my name there, so that was a bit of a problem. My name's Eddie Harrison, and this is the first of my weekly reports. First of my... Right, yeah. Headphones, you're like Rambo now. Oh dear. What is there new to say about Peter Buttersworth, who bestrode the Carry On films like a colossus from 1949 to 1979? In Hopkins' biopic, just exactly as the phone went off, biopic, this film features Clint Eastwood's sister. Wet pang. God, fuck. Right, okay. Sorry. Right, sorry.
He's talking rubbish, that one!
Very good evening and welcome to Serious About Film. My name's Eddie Harrison and this is another of my weekly reports from the Marienbad Film Festival. First up this week, we're looking at Lindsay Anderson's Kitchens of Distinction. Apart from a few pop promos, such as Johnny Hates Jazz live in Kowloon, the last few years of British director Lindsay Anderson's life were believed to be a fallow period. That is, until some beta tapes were unearthed in a lunatic asylum in Salzburg. These tapes show Anderson's early work with the popular British band The Kitchens of Distinction. Malcolm McDowell will be looking in the film you're about to see at some of Lindsay Anderson's letters, laundry lists and telephone pad scribblings, and talking about his relationship with the great British director. Malcolm McDowell told me, Lindsay Anderson's work particularly inspired me in terms of its socialist principles and its creative power. After that, we'll be looking at some of McDowell's own films, including Iron Eagle 4, Sandworms of Optimum, and Kid Cops 5. Let's take a look. Dynamic stuff, I'm sure you'll agree. Next up from the Marienbad Film Festival, we're going to be looking at Ken Loach's Temptation Island, where reality TV meets British realist cinema. It's a follow-up to last year's hugely successful Who Wants to Marry Mike Lee, and features the veteran British director, together with a bevy of Playboy beauties, the complete works of Karl Marx, abandoned on a desert island. Once there, viewers get to vote for their favourites and vote off the ones that they don't like. Ken Loach's camera doesn't flinch from any of the action, particularly during a discussion between Peter Mullen and Ghostface Killah of the Wu-Tang Clan about the work of George Bataille. The music is by Fabio from Fabio and Grooverider. Let's take a look. Emotional stuff. We're going to take a break right now, but after this we'll have more from the Marienbad Film Festival. Join us then. Welcome back. I'm Eddie Harrison, and this is Serious About Film, my weekly reports from the Marienbad Film Festival. Next up, this week, we're going to be looking at Sir Richard Attenborough's controversial biopic of the British artist Tracey Emin. Entitled simply Emin, this film challenges the notion that creative people are any more interesting than you and I. Jennifer Love Hewitt plays the talented artist in a remarkable performance. In one scene, she clutches her breasts together with intense passion, and yet in another, they swing free with surprising naturalism. The film also features Ashton Kutcher as Charles Saatchi, Sadie Frost as the Queen, and was filmed entirely in the toilets of Soho House. Let's take a look. Orchid Daughter, a film from Scottish director Kenny McLaren. The film tells the story of a blind, deaf Asian woman and her search for the remains of her amputee daughter in the burnt-out remnants of a Maryhill abortion clinic. Winner of the Tiny Tim's Crutches Award for the film most obviously about disability at the Edinburgh Film Festival last year. Orchid Daughter is a particularly touching film when it deals with Billy Boyd's character, a cocky gangster called Waz. The scene where he finds out that his anal plug has been spiked with ketamine would move audiences to tears. Orchid Daughter has been a poorly received film, and perhaps director McLaren showed his emotions about this when he shot himself, his friends, his family, and the entire cast and crew for the film. Perhaps, posthumously, we'll be able to understand what McLaren was trying to say. Let's take a look. Wish you a very good night. Good night.
talking about speaking like that. Why not send me a VHS tape? Send it to me, Eddie Harrison at
Good evening and welcome to Serious About Film. My name is Eddie Harrison, and this week, as every week, I'm taking you through a regular bulletin from what's going on at this year's Marienbad Film Festival, where film comes first, with a capital F. This week, we kick off with more Gallic vagueness from French director Claude Lelouch and his film A Man Without Change. Riffing on an idea from Vladimir Putin's film Surprise Sock, Lelouch here conjures up Vincent Perez as a hopeless Parisian, and we follow his everyday existence. His domestic routines include fixing a vacuum cleaner, straightening some paper clips, and murdering a tramp with a blancmange. Perez's life, however, is turned upside down when he meets Juliette Binoche, who plays a penniless bag lady who crashes her trolley into him at a supermarket. This film scored an unexpected 5 million admissions at the Danish Film Festival last year, up against stiff competition from Kangaroo Jack versus The Weeping Camel. Let's have a look and find out why. Next up from Marienbad, we have Gary Marshall's chick flick, Shiny. When Honey, played by Jessica Alba, returns home to her mother, Shimmy, played by Mariah Carey, with a basket full of wet washing and the story of the man who broke her heart, there's very little that Mariah Carey can do but to take her in. After all, she's her mother and also her friend too. Together, they plan to make it to the semi-finals of the American Karaoke Association Singers Competition. However, when a drug deal goes wrong at the airport, they're forced to disguise themselves as Hasidic gangsters, with hilarious consequences. Gary Marshall's film is as sweet as a mouse's larder, but there's an unexpected coda. In a 10-minute final shot, the camera pans through the killing fields of Auschwitz and finally settles on a skull at the top of a cross. The words "Why" appear in enormous white letters on the screen. You can draw your own conclusions, of course. This film also features Jessica Drake as Benjamin Disraeli. Enjoy. That's all we've got time for in our report from the Marienbad Film Festival for this half of the show. In the second half, we'll have more Serious About Film. Join me then. Hello, and welcome back to Serious About Film, a report from the Marienbad Film Festival. Next up, the Mirrorball Mashup Strand presents exciting new video work in Hideo Maraki's Blue Screen. His earlier work was rejected by both projectionists and audiences, and Maraki seemed reduced to a daily routine of wallowing in self-pity. But he's back now with a remarkable film made for the Japanese girl band Ying Yong. After filming their supposedly lesbian antics against several different backgrounds, including Culloden and a West End coffee shop, Miyake then went into the studio and digitally removed first all stages of the backgrounds, then the foregrounds, and then of the girls themselves. The result, a completely blue screen, was described as mesmerising by Sight and Sound, and won second prize at the Annecy Hip Hop Children's Film Festival, under the stewardship of Roman Polanski. Let's find out why. Good night. Hello and welcome to Anyway. Straightening a paperclip, murdering a tramp with a blancmange. I can't remember what happens next. I can't remember. It was all going so well, man. It's all going so well. Good evening. I'm Eddie Harrison and welcome to Serious About Film. This is yet another of Thistle TV's reports from the Marienbad Film Festival, where film comes first with a capital F. First up this week, it's more Korean grocery madness in my life as a 10-year-old boy. When an American voiceover artist played by Nancy Cartwright awakens after 15 years imprisoned in a Burbank studio, she sets out to track down those responsible for holding her captive and to torture them with her show. Pad Il Churk's mixture of high-octane violence, cannibalism and home bakery may not be to everyone's taste, but his vision of a neon-lit Tokyo and also of Western Bailiston is one that you've got to admire. Let's take a look. Superb stuff. Next up from the Marienbad Film Festival, a triple bill from American filmmaker Richard Linklater. In his earlier films, Before Sunrise and Before Sunset, Linklater introduced us to Jesse and Celine, two star-crossed lovers played by Ethan Hawke and Julie Delpy. However, in the third film, Linklater takes matters a stage further. In Before Sunset 2, Shark Attack, we follow Jesse and Celine not through the back streets of Paris or the bars of Prague, but through a shark-infested moat just outside of Grenoble. Linklater shows his hand very early to the audience in a key scene. In this scene, Ethan Hawke tells Julie about a dream that he has had about her grandmother, not realising that his legs had been currently gnawed off by a gigantic shark. In return, Julie sings a song about frogs. Let's take a look. I'm sure you'll agree, one of the strongest films from the Marienbad Film Festival this year. Next up on Serious About Film, we'll have more of the same. Join me then. Welcome back to Marienbad, and now animation and Finding Nemo 2, Sophie's Choice. It's the first collaboration and the first foray into animation by the Ant and Dec of Korean Hellcore. In an adventurous sequel to the Pixar classic, Susan Sarandon provides the voice of Sophie, a naive young starfish forced into a bizarre sexual contract with a cruel German barnacle played by Mackenzie Crook. After developing an erotic fixation with Sophie, he kidnaps her 7 children and demands that she exchange them for her own legs, which are ritually sawn off by a passing swordfish, a hilarious cameo by Lou Reed. As there are 7 baby starfish and only 6 legs, a heinous dilemma awaits the sexy arachnid. Welcome back to Serious About Film, our reports from the Marienbad Film Festival. Next tonight, Scottish short film, and the Shorty Fancies of 2004. These shorts are the prestigious result of the On the Brew scheme created by the Scottish Executive. In this scheme, filmmakers and creative people from all over Scotland race to place films, scripts, treatments and ideas in with the Scottish Executive, who then have government-controlled robo-slaves dump them in landfill sites somewhere in the area of Roughall. Films going to be considered in this week's selection will include Angus MacSpluddle's moving documentary about the life of her grandmother, Midden on the Wind, and also Angus MacSpluddle's searing documentary trilogy, Tongs Ya Bass. Filmed in Pixel Vision and scripted by Slate, this is one for the true enthusiast. Pass the Corbusier. Sadly, that's all we've got time for this week at the Marienbad Film Festival. However, we'll have more Serious About Film again soon.
If you think you can make a better film than the ones you've seen tonight,
why not send them to me?
Eddie Harrison at Serious About Films,
Thistle Television, Roundtree House,
17 Roundtree Avenue,
Newhouse Industrial Estate, Holytown,
ML1 5RX.
And at this the Digital Design Studio in Glasgow and the Blue Room in Edinburgh.
And that's all from me, Eddie Harrison.
Good night.